So finally, we have the full update details for the global server 3.7. Downtime will begin at the usual times and last about 3 hours. Now you may have already seen me cover the update details from the Korean server. Well, let me tell you, there are some very interesting new additions to our list of changes, including the chance to get golden chests even on tier 1 to 5 trials, with a buff to higher level trials. You can now properly see your full combat power breakdown. There's been a ton of extra general fixes, along with Dagger's smokescreen, Great Source Da Vinci's courage, and there's new Vanguard notifications. So let's go through everything confirmed for us in Global and what this means. First of all, they've confirmed we are indeed getting ranked mode for Battlegrounds. This will be pre-season, lasting for 6 weeks. It will indeed have a limited time slot for when it's available. Now, depending on the rank that you achieve per week, you'll be able to purchase extra rewards. Looking at your merchant, you can see you can get extra Chaos Runes, Nebula chests, Chaos Prisms, which may not be really needed anymore, and even some furniture and conversion stones. Again, this ranked mode is going to be just for solo queue. You cannot go in with pre-formed parties. They've also added healing contribution, but this will not account for overhealing. So you just get 10 points for every 50,000 health healed. I would assume that gets multiplied then based on the bases that your team has. They are adding this new party and guild ping system. I won't get into all the details, you can check it out later, but it should look something like this. With regards to Lifeskills, the 2 flying whales will have some new content added. Throughout the map, there should be these new islands you can get to, but only while the whale is flying about. I currently don't see anything, so it'll just be something you'll have to discover. It should allow you to get more Divine Beast Crystals from those islands, and you will use them to get the new furniture, which we can see displayed in the Korean patch notes, this being for Minutrite and this Gigantrite, although the wallpapers and flooring is limited to the shop. This will be a new epic tier of furniture, giving higher housing power, and it will have a small chance for great success, which means you can sell it. And there are some extra quality of life improvements here as well, including the ability to dissolve higher tier materials to get a lower tier. But then they confirm the heroic sync. You will indeed be able to use the sync system to have multiple pieces of legendary heroic gear at max level, as stated here in the patch notes. Now, this does indeed come with a bit of an outcry with regards to Tico stating that we would not get the heroic sync system. He claimed that they would just introduce more ways to get the items needed to upgrade your heroic equipment, with the release of the heroic pass as a big leap forward. And so if you put faith into Tico and believed heroic sync was never going to happen, you may very well have upgraded an additional heroic weapon. But it means you basically wasted a ton of growth stones, with the fact now you can simply sync that heroic equipment. If you have one weapon at max level, then you effectively have all at max level when you just slot it in your sync slots. Now, thankfully, the Korean devs have acknowledged this, and they say their development team is currently preparing support measures for players who have already completed unique equipment enhancements, meaning heroic equipment upgrades. They understand this feature was not sufficiently announced in advance of the update, and may have caused some players who have already strengthened the same area multiple times to feel disappointed and deprived. They take this responsibility seriously and strive to provide faster and more transparent information regarding future system changes. And so yes, they are preparing compensation, but this is only acknowledged from the Korean developers, and there has been many instances in the past where compensation has only been given from the Korean developers to the Korean players, completely ignoring us global players. So I encourage you, if there is no sign within the next few days of the global devs acknowledging this, go and light your torches, raise those pitchforks, because this is just very unjust. If you went and upgraded a second legendary weapon due to Tico stating there would be no heroic sync, make sure you're going to get compensation for that and get those growth stones back to be able to put them on your other gear. And probably the best place to go would be customer support and otherwise the general chats in Discord. Just make sure you are civil about it. You won't get anything by being rude. And this also comes with the ability to purchase imprint scrolls for much cheaper, meaning if you have lots of solent to spare, you can much more easily switch out the skill cores, as it will just cost you 1.2 million per scroll. And you will be able to transfer different armor pieces with other different armor pieces, and same for accessories. But then we look at the weapon balance changes. We went over the majority of this already. Simply shield stacking with other players will no longer work. A fix to sword and shield's concentrated barrier. However, as I've shown in the previous video and went into detail, the crossbow nerf with detonation mark is now capped 50% of base damage. Although this is very misleading. This should more accurately display 20,000 of base damage, due to that 50,000% actually being affected by the 40% follow-up effect, which I have no idea why it's like that. But when you look at my test results here, that I showcased earlier in the previous video in full detail, we can see it correctly aligns with the amount of damage we're seeing, bar a bit of rounding, at just 20,000 instead of 50,000%. The same for these tests here. So it is, yes, the average between your min and max base damage, but then only multiplied by 200 and not 500, which means this nerf is significantly worse than we expected. You will only hit upwards of 150,000 with detonation mark. No longer will you be able to get upwards in the millions with it, which does mean, yes, Orb crossbow has seen a pretty big nerf as a result. No longer is their overall damage boosted by about 80%, but it also has a bigger impact on other classes like Scorpion, like Fury, that relied on detonation mark as well. In terms of dummy test times, you can see this guy posted a video and she does about 10 million damage in a minute, which is pretty much what I was getting on quite a few classes like Oracle DPS, Fury, and Enigma can very likely get there too when you account for Hellfire Rain actually hitting the target properly. And we also have confirmed buffs for staff, which is another boost again for any build with staff. With Greatsword, they fixed Da Vinci's Courage. It will no longer stack with itself between other Greatsword users. And Dagger's Phantom Smokescreen, when you move out of its area, you will lose that effect. We should be able to confirm that right here. When you have this specialization, we cast it, we gain the buff, and if we move out of the area, we lose the buff. Unlike before, you would have the buff for the entire time, no matter where you moved after you cast it, which made it a little bit broken. Longbow, having that steady aim, the critical damage buff will now be affected by buff duration, which is great. You'll much more easily be able to have 100% uptime on that, so probably increase that to 8 seconds with 100% buff duration. And then we have some general fixes. So this includes the ability for Vanguard leaders to be able to use a new chat, Vanguard notification channel, creating a banner display to notify players in the group. For Dimensional Trials, they've added a chance to get the golden chest on all levels. So tiers 1 to 5, it is still a really tiny chance, but at least the possibility is there. And you can see tier 1 is 1%, 2 is 2, and so on up to tier 5. Once you do tier 6, it's now 10%. And if you get to tier 9, it's 13%. And that's in addition to what you get with these modifiers, which should increase it by 3% per modifier. But you can't have any modifiers on tier 1 to 5, so you can't increase it beyond this chance. They've increased the amount of fragments you get from arch bosses. You'll now get 8 as a participation reward rather than 4, and you can get an additional 4 if you're ranked 6 or higher, and just partaking you get another 2. So you're always going to get 10 just by going to these fights. With then the guild ones, you can still get 8 participation rewards, but then your guild has to rank like 3 or better in order to get some extra ones. So yeah, that just makes it a lot faster to be able to upgrade your archboss weapons. Should take you about 10 weeks now instead, even if you're not getting good rankings here. And the combat power of those archboss weapons should be increased, I assume, to the level of a tier 3 weapon. And they've included the full breakdown where you can see that you're getting your combat power. So runes, I can see I'm getting 381 out of a maximum of 1080. So you can see exactly what you need to work on to improve your combat power. Like right here in the Korean server, I miss a ton from weapon masteries. And I clearly know then, by looking at this, exactly what I should be focusing on. So this is huge gain for just clarity. Just be aware it exists. And they've correctly added the ability to upgrade those skill cores directly for tier 2 archboss weapons. Once again, enemy loot can be picked up by walking over it. There has been a bug for a while now that only your Amatoi could pick up your loot, which just felt a bit weird. There are some cooking improvements here as well, and some other general quality of life and fixes. But yeah, that's about it for this update and everything confirmed coming to global for 3.7. Again, let's make sure that we will be getting compensation too with regards to their switch around on their decision to actually now introduce heroic sync, particularly for people who have upgraded multiple of the same type of equipment. Like if you've upgraded multiple weapons, this is now a complete waste with the sync system, and you'd be far better off putting those growth stones on a different item. I will do some tests to double check this summon satellite effect, as this just seems super weird that they've basically buffed its damage output. And I am really annoyed with regards to the way they've just changed up detonation mark, kind of screwed over the formula. It's not even working as they state it does. Again, 20,000, not actually 50,000 of your average base damage. And this just directly nerfs any other class way more than Crucifix, like Scorpion, like Fury, like Battle Weaver for their damage output, which means Crucifix will still be the top performer. All they realistically needed to do was change Rift Fracture from not being a weaken so they don't get all that additional cooldown reduction from Selfless Diffusion. It would indeed change their playstyle a bit because they couldn't spam this one ability as much, but it would also balance it far better than nerfing indirectly all these other classes. But that's enough said. A special thank you again to all these channel members for your added support. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys around.